Khushbu Gulati, Research Scholar, Amity Institute of Environmental Toxicology, Safety and Management. Welcome you all with a punchline by our dear Professor Tanu Jindal, Save Earth to bring birth for the new birth. Today, with the blessings of our Honorable Founder President, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, we all have gathered here to celebrate World Environment Day, organized by Amity Institute of Environmental Toxicology, Safety and Management, Amity Institute of Environmental Science, and National Environmental Science Academy, NESA. We are delighted to welcome all our esteemed guests, dignitaries, HOIs, faculties, research scholars, and dear students. World Environment Day is celebrated every year on June 5 to promote awareness on the need to identify problems related to the environment and ways to take corrective actions. World Environment Day was celebrated in the year 1973. It was first celebrated in the year 1973, and it means to tackle environmental challenges that include climate change, global warming, disaster management, harmful substances, environmental governance, ecosystem management, and resource efficiency. Being a part of the World Environment Day celebration gives us an opportunity to share our thoughts and activities for making environment cleaner, greener, and brighter. Now, I request Professor Tanu Jindal, Director AIETSM, to welcome our eminent guest, Professor A. Arunachalam, General Secretary, National Environmental Science Academy, with the holy plant of Tulsi.
Sir, we give saplings because plants perish and because they die.
I again request ma'am to welcome Dr. V.P. Upadhyay, Director, Ministry of Environment and Forests, with another Tulsi plant.
So this will grow with our bonding together.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Professor Tanu Jindal to please deliver the welcome address. Professor Tanu Jindal established Amity Institute of Environmental Toxicology, Safety and Management 8 years back and is also the advisor and mentor to Amity Institute of Environmental Science. She has doctorate from University of Delhi and taught MSc classes for 7 years with simultaneous research at Indian Agricultural Research Institute. She has several accolades and awards to her credit. She held the DST Young Scientist Project and was awarded the prestigious New Investigator Award from American Chemical Society. She has handled several projects from Ministry of Environment and Forests, Department of Science and Technology, and Ministry of Earth Sciences, and has memberships of eminent societies. Please, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to you all. With the blessings of our Honorable Founder President, I take this opportunity to celebrate World Environment Day. And we also strive to showcase our environmental initiatives and concerns about environmental awareness. Amity Institute of Environmental Toxicology, Safety and Management, and Amity Institute of Environmental Sciences, Dr. Nidhi Gauba is acting head, and along with National Environmental Science Academy, I am pleased to organize World Environment Day 2014. I am honored to welcome Dr. V.P. Upadhyay, Scientist F and Director, Ministry of Environment and Forest, who has kindly accepted our invitation to deliver the special talk and being chief guest of our function and spare time out of his very busy schedule and being on Environment Day, especially being here. I also welcome Dr. Arunachalam, General Secretary, National Environmental Science Academy. He's invited me yesterday for the Foundation Day at NSC Complex, and he has been a great support throughout to organize this function together. I welcome Dr. Sunil Saran. He is always there with me in Amity for everything ever since I've joined. I'm delighted to welcome all other esteemed guests, HOIs, faculties, research scholars, and of course my dear students, though very less are there as summer break is there. Today we are developing at the cost of environment with the consequences of global warming and climate change. Now global warming is making the sea level rise, and it triggers not only the natural disasters but also may submerge small islands, which is the theme of World Environment Day 2014, to save the small islands. We are celebrating World Environment Day with a view to stimulate global awareness and to encourage people to become active participants in the sustainable and equitable development process so that all nations and people enjoy a more prosperous future. In 1972, the United Nations Conference on Human Environment began in Stockholm. It was stated that poverty was the worst polluter, and there exists a link between environmental conservation and elimination of poverty. This launched a global debate on the need to look at poverty eradication, developmental imperatives, and environmental concerns as interdependent objectives. It is thus rightly said, what is the use of a sophisticated life if we don't have a tolerable planet and a good health to put it on? Now I would like to present some of the Amity initiatives in the environmental domain. This is the punchline been already told by Khushbu. We are having several institutes at Amity. Amity Institute of Environmental Toxicology, Safety and Management, Amity Institute of Environmental Sciences, Amity School of Natural Resources and Sustainable Development, Dr. B.K.P. Sinha is the director. Amity Institute of Geoinformatics and Remote Sensing, Dr. Madhulika Singh. Amity Institute of Global Warming and Ecological Studies, Dr. Devendra Pandey is looking after this institute, and Amity Institute of Water Technology and Management being recently launched. We are running courses right from doctorate to master level, PhD in all the disciplines, MSc Environmental Sciences, MTech Environmental Engineering, then MTech Geoinformatics and Remote Sensing, MBA Natural Resource and Management, and PhD in Natural Resource and Management. Then we are teaching 4,000 students at the campus for the undergrad courses to all the undergraduate students, as UGC has made it mandatory. Then we have 5 PhD scholars at AITSM. Around, you can see the figures. We have 48 students in MTech, MSc 46, MBA 7, and PhD scholars. We have 11 PhD scholars on the moment. Environmental Toxicology Safety and Management Institute, I would like to tell a little bit about it, as the environmental toxicology is very close to my heart. This studies the cause and effect of environmental contaminants, that is PHAs, PCBs, pesticides, heavy metals, dioxins, benzofurans, and their impact on ecosystem, that is soil, water, air, flora and fauna. And safety and management, name of the institute, tackles with the bioremediation, site reclamation, environmental monitoring, data collection, wastewater treatment, solid waste management, and e-waste management technologies. Then we have filed 5 patents, and in environment domain there are total 96 papers in journals, 66 research papers in seminars and conferences, 11 books, 70 abstracts, 12 newspaper articles, and 7 magazines articles. These are the projects which we are running from Ministry of Environment and Forest on residue study in cotton, paddy and vegetable growing areas. From DST we are studying leaching of chlorpyrifos, and from Ministry of Earth Sciences we are studying the impact of drains on groundwater contamination. Some projects in AIES by DST Young Scientist projects. There are 2 DST Young Scientists and 1 SERB project. Then MIT used to have global warming and studies on effect of habitat fragmentation on endangered cabbed langur in Assam, study on effect of shifting cultivation, study on again golden langur in Assam. So these are the pictures you can have see about our work on the analysis in surface and groundwater. These are the lysimetric studies we are conducting to know the leaching. This is again impact of drain lysimetric studies we are conducting. So I just would like to skip shortly about the results. In Delegate area and Morigate area we have found a lot of heavy metals, lead, and also we have got nickel, and like you can see arsenic also has been detected. Then total chromium is also detected. But mostly we are finding lead, nickel and chromium, and arsenic and mercury are at the lower side. We are giving a recommendation that nitrate has been found in almost all the samples. We have studied 9 major drains in Delhi in different locations which are heavily loaded. There are 16 drains in Delhi, but out of them we have selected 9, and all of them nitrate has been found predominantly leaching down the groundwater. And this is the project for which we received the award from ACS. This is the workshop we conducted with MOEF to inspire youth for using bicycle. This is national conference with Ministry of Earth Sciences on pollution prevention paradigm. And then this conference we did with the Indian Network for Soil Contamination Research and Delhi University on environmental pollution, soil health and sustainable agriculture. Then another conference this year we did was Preserving the Planet, a conference with MOES. It was Earth and Environment, Pollution and Prevention. So 88 papers were presented and 9 invited lectures were there. This is the research work we are doing. We, in association with Dharamshala Cancer Hospital, we are planning to start on breast cancer and effect of environmental toxicants. And then also another project we are doing, physical and biochemical assay of OPs for human risk assessment. We are also trying to degrade the plastics, because biodegradable also does not degrade properly. So we are trying to find out some microbes. These are the patents. Then we hold the memberships of eminent societies. From time to time we keep organizing training courses also to update our staff, and I myself attend training courses because there is no end to learning. And these are the equipments we have acquired in the institute. I'll just quickly, we have got instrument laboratory full-fledged, and we have all the equipments which are required for soil water analysis. We have also got now animal house at Pharmacy Institute. So we would be doing certain studies with them, and we have got MOU with Shriram also, where we would be doing toxicological studies. And this is something I wrote about mandates and vision of the institute. Thank you very much. I would like to end with these lines. प्रदूषण विरुद्ध ऐलाने जंग, सब साथ साथ चले संग, बदले अपने जीवन के ढंग, भर दे पर्यावरण में रंग. Thank you and have a good time ahead in the conference. Maybe it's a lot of learning with the expertise we are having, Dr. Arunachalam and Dr. Upadhyay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words. Now I would like to invite Professor A. Arunachalam to enlighten us on environmental pollution, climate change, and impact on agriculture. Dr. A. Arunachalam is Scientist F and General Secretary, National Environmental Science Academy. Before joining NISA, he served as a Principal Scientist in the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, New Delhi. Dr. Arunachalam has numerous publications in reputed research journals, various popular articles in books, and many synthesis volumes, training manuals, and technical bulletins to his credit. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It has been a pleasant surprise for all of us that two spheres of institutions in the academia are coming together for the first time to celebrate the World Environment Day, WED in short. So it's basically a wedding that has taken place between NASA and Amity, that we can say. That way, it's an important event that is going to be registered in the history of both the organizations as we come together for a cause. To start with, when we conceived this idea, it was a very short time. In 5 days, 6 days time, we finalized. And then every support was provided by the Honorable Founder President, Shri Ashok Chavan, who also called me personally today and then gave the best wishes for this program. So thanks to him. And thanks to Dr. Ayyappan, who is the Director General of Indian Council of Agriculture Research, who facilitated this possibility of coming together. Amity and the ICR has an MOU already in place where we work together. I also thank Dr. Selvamurthy for the very culture of innovativeness, not even in his work culture, but also in facilitating the work to happen. So that has been appreciated. So here we are, 2014, witnessing the International Year of Small Island Developing States. And we have about 52 countries, or rather smaller states developing, who are vulnerable to the changes in the climate. And therefore, this year has been rightly marked for them. We also should be aware that 2014 is also the International Year for Family Farming. So not only environment, but also agriculture has been blended together, because we very well know for our sustenance and survival, we need both of them to be in proper order. And therefore, the country is also able to enact this act of food security, and therefore our test of reasoning to bring environment and agriculture together rises much more high. The moment we talk about environment, people immediately visualize certain things about biological diversity, in short, biodiversity. People appraise biodiversity in different definitions. They all know the importance. Awareness is already there. We are attracted towards the biological diversity. We also study about the functions of the biological diversity. We also very well know the threats to them. We also know the consequences of the threat. We also know the conservation approaches. We also want to restore the degraded lands. So many issues attached to biodiversity which are supposed to be blended together in our approach of sensitizing the people for environmental awareness. Climate change is another aspect when we talk about environment per se. It's an alarming situation. There are examples where we see location specific examples of climatic changes and its impact. The government per se has legal instruments to manage the environment, to manage the biological diversity. We all must be also appreciative of one of our initiative called National Action Plan for Climate Change, NAPCC, under the direct monitoring of PMO. And one of the smallest thing but makes big histories in the entire globe in terms of carbon sequestration is the trees outside the forest, and most of them in agroforestry systems. And on 5th February 2014, the draft National Agroforestry Policy was also unveiled by the Cabinet. Not only legal instruments in place, we also have examples of community consciousness about biodiversity. We also protect the ecosystems and species through community approach. At the same time, we also come out with some conflicts. Here is one example of conflict between conservation and agriculture. Agriculture as currently practiced is the chief cause of destruction of valuable habitats. If this is the narrative given by Meckley and Scheer in 2001, and the counter response was given by N.V. Simons in 2001 itself, that if everybody has to be, the response is to try to make the agriculture biodiversity friendly. That is one approach. But the other approach Simons said was that if everybody has to be having their food for a decent food every day, then there should be a limit for biological conservation. So there were conflicting issues coming up. These all points I had just blogged in here just to set the tone for this World Environment Day as a food for thought. Like Professor Tanu said that they have had that punchline for the new birth people, the younger generation rather. We have our punchline for the academy also, that is the green path to progress. I'll be briefing about what this academy is all about, because this academy is not only for the elite, it's also for the budding scientists, students, research scholars, and also social committed people who can all come together in the academy and work also. Now this is an academy, National Environmental Science Academy, founded in 1984 in Ranchi. Presently, the head office has been shifted to Delhi. It is in Alagnanda. And incidentally or coincidentally, yesterday was our Foundation Day, 4th of June 2014. We celebrated the Foundation Day, where Professor Tanu also witnessed our programs. The aims and objectives of the academy, we have tried to pull together. Basically, it is environmental awareness, research, development, technology management, and also IPR issues. Professor T.R.C. Sinha is our founder. He is no more. We lost him in 2012, November. And we paid tribute to that person. Professor Izzat Kazim, who was the first secretary to Government of India for MOEF. He was also secretary to Department of Ocean Development. He was the mission chair rather, for the Antarctica mission of Government of India. And he was Vice Chancellor of Jamia Millia Islamia. He is our president now. We have an executive council by renowned people. We also have an executive committee to administer the activities. We have district environment centers also across the country. We have so far created 55 district environment centers. This academy acknowledges, recognizes, and rewards the people who are working in the field of environment with a social cause. We have provisions for fellowships, we have provisions for scientist awards, and also conference-based awards. All these awards are scrutinized through committees, fellowship committees, and award committees. Numbers are fixed. We also have provisions for distinguished awards for those people who have spectacular achievements in specialized areas. We have memorial awards instituted. We have also lifetime achievement awards. The guidelines are being scrutinized now and the fee structure is being revised. As of now, this academy is having more than 1860 life members and 70 fellows who have been elected through series of procedures. Amongst the best scientists category, we have 12 scientists so far have been rewarded. 2 of them are women. Eminent scientist category also we have rewarded 48 people, 11 women. Scientists, 133 have been rewarded, 39 are women. Environmentalist awardees, 112 have been awarded and 39 are women. Junior scientists, we also have provisions to lure or motivate the young scientists. So we have 133 already awarded, 66 are women amongst the young scientists. We have distinguished awardees and lifetime achievement awards. So far we have given 2. The academy has always been involved in active organization within the academy, outside the academy as well. We have annual conference every year since installation. We have seminars, conferences of national and international level every year. Last time we had an international conference on climate change, environment and sustainable development in Jamia Hamdard. We have a monthly newsletter to propel and propagate instant deliveries in the sector of environment. Anybody and everybody are welcome to write in those newsletters. It is a monthly newsletter. We have 6 journals in place which are biannual. We have an international journal on environmental science. We have an international journal of agricultural sciences. We have an international journal of biological sciences, Indian journal of Unani medicine, Indian journal of polar sciences, and a journal of basic and applied sciences. We have been publishing the proceedings of the conferences and seminars. One of the important service this academy is doing is the abstracting service as competent to any other services. We have an environmental abstracts. So anybody can take advantage of these publications. The academy's framework of functioning is given in this slide. We have a management committee, we have a general committee, executive council, executive committee, all of 3 years duration. In case of emergency, we also have an emergency committee constituted for operationalizing the issues. Finance committee, it is a standing finance committee we have to operationalize the funding part and financial part of that. We have a website which is www.nesaindia.in. It's being facelifted and upgraded, so people might face little difficulties, but it is still functioning. Meanwhile, we have taken steps or formed committees to revise our membership pro forma, to simplify that, award pro forma also being simplified. We are creating a passport data sheet. We are creating provisions for students. If they want to have life membership, we are provisioning them with subsidized fee structures, and awards and research and study projects can also be taken through the academy. We are in the process of setting up regional chapters, so I will be happy if some nominations come who want to take care of the north, south, east, west and northeastern regions to establish the regional chapters. This year, we are having an annual conference on 27-28 December 2014. Along with that, we will be having a national seminar on science-led development for environmental sustainability in Madurai Kamaraj University, for which we have already committed that Amity University will also partner with us in organizing this national seminar. This is the brochure which is also already in the website. So all are requested to go through and make it possible to participate in these programs. We are very good in remembering some of the dates, but we often forget all these days which have relevance to environment. So I have tabulated it, almost 42 days you can remember out of 365 days. If you can remember all these 42 days, then you are an environmentalist. So please ensure that at least these 42 days are remembered, and we should not be an isolated bear like that. We should not become threatened to ourselves. We should not degrade the environment to the extent possible. Rather, remember Gandhiji's words. It's already in place. I'm just putting all these four photographs intentionally that you can see the tigers. They live together. The flowers, they hang together. The man, the human being, is sitting alone and waiting for something uncertain. But all of us join together to bow for some threat. So this is the today's scenario, even in the environmental sector. What do we want? Ultimately, we need biodiversity. We need food. So far, our agriculture scientists could not develop a crop that can give you currency notes. They have been able to give you crops that can give you grains and fruits. So what do we want? So today, we need caring with care. Care itself all alone cannot be required. We need caring with care. So if you have eaten food today, please thank a farmer, which we never do. This is the last slide. So we all have to be connected. We need to participate with a vision. We should move forward. And the challenge is, you can see the fish moving from a small bowl to the larger bowl, on and on, a big challenge with us. So we need to be connected. Thank you for the support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an elevating and enriching talk. Now, I would like to invite on dais Dr. V.P. Upadhyay to deliver a talk on biodiversity assessment in EIA. Dr. Upadhyay is currently serving as Scientist F and Director, Ministry of Environment and Forests. He has a total field experience of 35 years. He has been performing functions for environmental impact assessment review, forestry research, restoration ecology research, forest ecosystem analysis. His area of specialization includes forest ecology, environmental appraisal, environmental impact assessment, and environmental monitoring. Dr. Upadhyay has numerous research papers, books, and technical reports published in many national and international journals of high repute. He has received several awards such as Environmental Conservation Awareness Award and recognition based on his scientific and academic contributions. Please, sir.
Thank you for inviting me for this August gathering. And today is everybody's day. World Environment Day is not for an institution, not for an organization, not for UNEP, but it is for all of us. The theme of this year's World Environment Day, Dr. Adochalam has already spoken. Raise your voice, not the sea level. There are many small island states which are in the developing phase. They are located below mean sea level. So the fear is that if the global warming, the way it is going, it goes and it raises the water level of the sea, what will happen? Remember, recently, the then president of Maldives went along with his cabinet inside the sea, and he had a cabinet meeting inside the sea. That is only to just impress upon, reflect upon the fear which we are going to have due to global warming. And let us not think more in a scientific term. Global warming is not a very complex phenomenon that we cannot deal. It's the attitude, the mental balance, which is needed more. After all, what is this? The carbon dioxide increase, which we are doing. We are exhaling carbon dioxide. A poor creature living next to the building is taking your poison and giving you oxygen. So simple thing. Carbon dioxide, which is a gas, creating problem, Although other gases are there, methane is there, nitrous oxide is there, CFCs are there, water vapor is there. But the main contributor is carbon dioxide, for which we have already a factory that is called as green lungs of the atmosphere. The trees, the plants. You people are associated with academics. I seldomly get involved in that because of my job profile. But still I feel if I am there with you people, I feel that yes, something is there inside. My academic is still live. In that scenario, I also do some research, which the lady has spoken nice word about me, about research and all. There are 6 to 7 gigaton of carbon buildup in the atmosphere. Let us not get conflicting the figure of USA contributing 37%, Europe contributing this much, we contribute 12%, something like that. But think of global way, there are some 6 to 7 gigaton of carbon net buildup in the atmosphere. And you know, if you go to the apportionment or chemistry of this, half of that particular carbon is taken care of by the ocean. You know the phenomena called as fertilizer effect. 3.5 to 4 gigaton is absorbed by the ocean itself, the algae, the other components. Net buildup is something like 3 or 3.4, you can say. So if you calculate in the sense, the 3.5 is the net buildup, and we start, stopping the deforestation in the tropical world, there will be something like 1.8, 1.9. If you go on calculating on the basis of the carbon sequestration capacity of the plants, you know the plants in India, we are in a tropical world. In our place, it is the capacity of 12 to 15 ton per hectare per year is the net dry matter buildup in the plants. I am talking about India. Talk about the Amazon and other areas, they are very highly productive, the tropical evergreen forests. They are, contributing or accumulating more than us. So, such calculation, if you do it, the net buildup of the carbon dioxide, which is actually giving a trouble to us, it can be halted for years together if we can raise only 329 million hectares of the land, create into the plantation. Why I am telling 329? This is the calculation. You can calculate the geographical area of India is needed in the world. That much area is only needed. We can halt the net buildup of carbon dioxide. It's not that very difficult. We have a lot of degraded land. Half of the land is degraded in India. Some in the form of deserts, some in the form of degraded forest. Similarly, other countries are also having. Pool some 330 million hectare of area and you get rid of this. So why I am simplifying it, I am just trying to impress upon that it's not very difficult, provided we have a positive attitude. It starts from the house, either indoor or outdoor. And little input from all of us will really contribute a lot to the fight with this challenge. All of you know that in the ecosystem there is an input, there is a system is functioning, there is an output. When there is imbalance, then you get these type of problems created, imbalance in the ecosystem. And most of the imbalance is coming through anthropogenic drivers. And the consumption pattern is the important factor which decides how much is the abuse. The developed world takes more than 16 or 17 times energy than us. Eating. Say for example, let us name USA. They are having a lot of energy eating, but their physique is like that, just like us. Why that much energy is needed in food? And then that goes as a throw and use and throw. And unfortunately, we are also entering into that domain, especially in the urban centers. Take it, use it, throw it. So there is no concept, the sustainability concept. If you go to Purana, Vedas, any other place, even if you go to village now, there is a, the discipline they have imbibed from the generations. You won't find a house without tree in village. And if you don't find a person who doesn't know name of more than 30, 40 trees. Can we do it? At least I feel happy in telling you that my son can distinguish between wheat and the paddy, because he has been to villages so many times. Otherwise, there are hundreds of children in the urban society. They may be thinking Brassica campestre, sarson is a big tree. This is the fact today. So we have got concentrated in such a competitive discipline here that everything is only earning money. So economic affluence, there has to be some halt in thinking. Ecological affluence is more important in today's life than your economic affluence. A lot of the indicators are there in the nature. Only you have to visualize, find out. If you go to a forest area, an ecologist will be able to know what is the status of the forest. But a common man can also know what is the status of the forest. It's similarly aquatic ecosystem, desert ecosystem. You will be able to find out what is the health of the forest. I think your people, your institution is also working on a lot of toxicological studies in agro-ecosystem. That is the requirement of today's world. People are crazy about organic foods. In Delhi itself or in this place itself somewhere, there will be 2 vegetable outlets. One is organic and that is inorganic. And people who are the educated one, they will orient towards the organic style. Why? They know that this is not harmful. But once upon a time we were doing that only. Our agriculture system was tuned to that organic farming. Everywhere, every field was getting cow dung manure. Now animal population is on decline. We burn the leaves and everything which is collected. We don't make organic manure. I hope Amity University has got a vermicomposting system. They must have taken all the refuse of the leaf, twigs, papers, food items, and should have a vermicomposting system. Take out all those organic manure, put it in your garden, this, that. They must be having it. I'm just highlighting here because these are the small things, though those things matters a lot. And once such type of gathering is there could be a occasion that people should be taken to those places. They should also appreciate, go back and they start taking that experiment into their own area. There are families, they are having small boxes of, the earthen pot or wooden pots. All things are going and they are making their own organic fertilizers. So it means we are doing something, but much more is needed. This is where the problem comes. We live in urban city. It is the late afternoon temperature measured. You can see the rural side has got very low temperature because there is aeration, there is circulation of air availability, there is the trees are there. But once you come into the middle, which is the urban heat island we call it, so the buildings are being made like this. There is no circulation of the air. Whatever air goes in, you go through vehicle, this, that, all the air remains in the same system and they start getting recirculated. So there's no outlet of that. That is how we create the urban heat islands, and that is a problem in the urban cities. And this is another cause of the global warming. We need the system like this. Suppose a house is there this side, and all these are greeneries. Arunachalam may be finding out where is this place, because he has been in Northeast for so many years. This is Mizoram, Kolasib area, where the houses are in a corner and whole thing are green. Even water, they go into the stream, take that water, they drink it. God has given. But when it comes in the phase of urbanization, everything will go away. You will have a desert-like system. Heat island is the outcome of the displacing the vegetation and trees, cut it, start doing something else. Tall building and narrow streets, they cannot, there is no exchange of air, open air and this, the air starts recirculating in that. And over and above, the vehicles and factories, air conditioners, they also generate heat and they are trapped in that particular system. That is how temperature goes up and heat islands are created. These are some slides which my professor, Professor J.S. Singh is there, I worked with him. He presented this in one of the seminars. I have, you can say, stolen or borrowed from his slides. So he says that city is a parasite. Do you agree? Do you agree or not? You have to agree. No, now you have to agree. What is coming is a raw material given by the nature. What goes from the city is all obnoxious, toxic pollutants. But there could be a way that if we start thinking of urban system, we make a production system. Like I gave you one example. Let us make a biocomposting or vermicomposting pit. Do that. Do some plantation. Have the system of development of urban system develop horizontally. Create some space where exchange of air is there. Then there are many things, try bicycling, try walking. Everybody we know this is good, but I don't know, there is some, limitation that we don't follow. Either we are in hurry or the society doesn't allow. There is an image. If I don't go by car, there will be a problem. People will say, oh, this fellow doesn't have. But if President of India walks, what you will say? Oh, sorry, such a first person of the nation is walking. So this, for the people in German, all professors, all people, all big CEOs, they have made it as a discipline. They walk, they go by cycle. But here, we are in the developing phase, so there is some, in the society, some image, it gets spoiled, something like that. Maybe we have to come out of that particular hangover. So the urban system also can become a productive system if, now of course the bulbs are getting changed. Everybody, I think, in fact, in India, this has come in a big way. BEE certified bulbs are now lighting every house. It's not because of environment, 100%. Why? It will save your money. So, because the bill of the electricity will come down. So that is more a deciding factor than we are going to protect the environment. But it's good. That's way that is good. Of course, Dr. Arunachalam has also highlighted it. The trees are archive of the past. Sometimes when I talk, I keep on telling the how Grand Trunk Road was built. And when the Grand Trunk Road was built by Shershah Suri, what was his vision? Most of you, if you have not visualized, now you can visualize. You have, driven through or walked through that road some 30, 40 years back. What type of trees did you see during walking or traveling on the Shershah Suri Grand Trunk Road? It all over the imli, mahua, bargad, mango, jamun. These are the 5, 6 important trees you will find right from Calcutta to UP and the place. Why it was like that? The message was they are long lasting. Had that road not been widened, those trees would have been still there. And then why that they were chosen? If you are passing, I am hungry, what can I do? You just visualize these 5 trees. One of the tree will be giving fruit anytime. And then after 10 kilometers, he has a sarai, the resting place with a well. See the vision of that person. Now we are making roads with acacia, eucalyptus, peltophorum, delonix. With one wind, everything will be on the floor. What is this thinking? And not everybody is affluent, I can drive and go to my house and eat. But there are people, they will be walking, they will be cycling. They need something. Where is the shade? Now we are creating acacia. We are creating precipice. If some fellow is going by cycle, उसमें एक कांटा लग जाएगा, cycle तो उसकी पंचर हो गई बेचारी की. So this is the thinking. All strata of the society are to be taken into account when you are doing a planning. See the vision of those people, how they have done it. So that's why it's archive of the past. It's a circle of life. We cannot think of being on this universe if there are no plants. Oxygen is needed to everybody. It's a cultural appreciation. You will be finding something. This is of Meghalaya. Nobody had told them that you do this type of the cultivation. This is one depiction that what a plant is giving to us. Absorb sound, block rainfall. Yesterday there was a news in Times of India that soundproof sheets on the flyovers of Delhi, they are being stolen. And the flyover with Indian-made sheets cost 46 lakhs. With German-made sheets, during Commonwealth, it was, I think, 10 crore or something. So that is being taken out. People are taking in the night and selling it. If there is a planning between the road and the colony, create a good buffer of this green. For 100 years, you don't need anything. Nobody will steal it. And you will have oxygen, you will have a noise barrier, we will have something like the rainfall coming and the intensity getting reduced and soil also will be intact. There will be no splash erosion and red or yellow color water will not flow into the drain, choking the drain. Dr. Tanu was showing some drain and lot of heavy metals and this, that she was showing. So there will be a good absorbing capacity of the soil also if intensity of rain is got reduced. And that can be got reduced only through a green canopy. So the planning has to be very perfect if we are talking about ecological benefit. It cools the air because evapotranspiration is there. That's why if you go beneath a tree, there is a cooling impact. So the research has proven all of you are doing research, must have taken from some of you. The sun rays are absorbed 70 to 85% and transmitted 15 to 30%. The moisture or the coolness is more when you have a tree canopy than the without tree. And similarly, the wind impact is also getting reduced if you have a barrier of tree. Remember a phase of 1999 super cyclone. In Odisha, a super cyclone came, maybe you must be remembering 1999. And up to Bhubaneswar, 120 kilometer, everything was totally, smashed. The speed of 120 kilometer per hour and the surge height was something like 12 meter, 13 meter of surge height, going from coast to up to Bhubaneswar. Even in city of Bhubaneswar, 120 kilometer, every tree had virtually fallen. 4-5 days, nothing was there. But there is a IUCN report. After that, they did study that area and found that all these areas got devastated. Villagers are nowhere, animals are nowhere. But on the northwest side of that super cyclone zone, there were villages, they were safe. 120 kilometers there was impact and everything just washed away. But on northwest of Paradip, with same intensity of the cyclone, the villages were safe. Not virtually safe, but they were not that much impacted. Why? Because the Bhitarkanika area, which is a high mangrove zone area, the mangrove, the surge started penetrating mangroves and mangroves started reducing the intensity of the surge. Once it went out of the mangrove area, intensity was far less and the villages were protected. It is IUCN report. So that is the beauty of the plants. They reduce the wind velocity also and they really create a human shield. Another issue is some of you are working, I think, the invasion. Our plants are maybe growing moderately. We want, during social forestry regime, what happened? Because firewood was far less available and we needed in our hinterland, because that time in the 80s, we needed only the wood for cooking food. That time this gas and these things were very, very less common. So the program was started about social forestry. जो सामाजिक वानिकी बोला जाता है कि let us start the plantation of those trees which have the capacity of growing fast. That is how eucalyptus and acacia, Peltophorum deinonyx, these came, and they have a coppicing ability. You cut them, take them away, and they will start sprouting from the same. But what has happened with that? Our natural stock, wherever eucalyptus has been grown and our natural seedlings are there in natural forest area, they will not be able to grow. Why? Because there is again a phenomena called allelopathy. The tannins and the resins are toxic impact created by the leaf fall and those type of acacia and eucalyptus. They did not allow the natural species to grow because of the high level of allelopathy. That is why sometimes I say jokingly, and that is the fact also, why you won't see a bird sitting on an acacia tree? Have you seen any nest on acacia or eucalyptus? Now, of course, some of the birds are getting adapted with eucalyptus becoming very old. But normally, the 5-6 plants which I told you, which are there in a plenty, people have planted, you won't find the birds making a nest, even birds sitting, because there is no food for them. And the tannin is so high, that's why their energy value is more. That's why they are firewood species. Once tannin is very high, so they will burn with a very good intensity. So energy value of those woods are high. But they are not for the ecosystem. I keep on telling the people, go to a mango tree, sit there for 5-7 minutes and just observed how many biotic life you are seeing. Not less than 50 species you can count on a mature mango, for that matter, imli or any other local tree you see. There will be so many butterflies, so many insects, so many birds, so many squirrels, the visitors are birds. If you start counting, then these caterpillars, you go on seeing that particular tree, you will see the visitors on that tree more than 50. You know better than me. So our indigenous, a single plant is an ecosystem. It's not a single plant, you are not planting a plant. Since they have got adapted since generations, that plant is giving food and feed to so many species around it. That is how a food chain is made. You cannot stay alone. You have to give some output, you have to take some input. So our indigenous varieties, they are really a ecosystem. They are not a single plant. So this the invasion, the way it has taken invasion, our stock, natural stock will not be able to come up. You remember when India got freedom, we were very, famine was very common, and the people were so much in need of food. Then I don't know whether you know or not, there was a scheme called PL 480. Under that scheme, we brought wheat from USA to feed our people. Do you know? With the wheat of the people, we got another plant, Parthenium. Oh, north में बोलते हैं गेहूं का मामा. The beauty of that plant is, you grow the wheat, that also grows along with the wheat. As long as they are vegetative phase, you cannot identify which is the Parthenium, which is the wheat. And by the time it flowers, and if you miss it within 5-10 days, it makes its seeds and falls it down in the soil. So it again, germplasm is there in the soil to come up. So it's a big headache. Parthenium is big headache. Similarly, the Tarai region, any Tarai region of the country, Lantana camera is the issue. We brought it as a ornamental plant. चलो इसको घर में लगाएंगे, लेंटाना को बढ़िया फूल दे रहा है, लाल या पीला. Now that has become a nuisance. So another area is, and this you have to relate with the biodiversity. Our natural biodiversity is getting eaten away by this, because they don't allow. So that's why the invasive species are to be very cautiously taken into the campus or any other place. And you know better, I have just made a slide about what ecosystem services you can get if the ecosystem is intact. There are number of services, provisioning, supporting, ecological, there are so many services, but just to list out some. मुझे नहीं मालूम था डॉक्टर अरुणाचलम भी यहाँ आ रहे हैं या आप भी आ रहे हैं, ये इन्हीं के प्रदेश का है. I was serving in Shillong. I went to Zero with some hydroelectric project. There I saw, I thought it is a wild, and I have seen a wildlife, but found that people are rearing it. This is a domesticated animal, but they cut it, eat it also. That is bad thing, but that is their life, culture. And I found this place very interesting. कौन सा है साहब? There is a tribe in Arunachal Pradesh. Why I am highlighting? Traditionally, we are very good in ecology. We know what is needed and to what extent we can harvest. This is an area near Zero in Arunachal Pradesh, and Apatani tribes are cultivating this particular area. From this catchment, whole water is channelized like this, and it is getting diverted through this field, that field, this field, that field, and they are, growing agriculture crops and the fish without doing any chemical amendment, and again allowing the water to go and to join the river. So beautiful mechanism people have adopted. Although Apatani tribes are most suppressed tribe, the dominant tribes, they have been pushing them from this side, that side. What is the dominant tribe? Hissing, Kishing? Nishi. They have been pushing them. They will make the area very ecological friendly with all this. Then Nishing people will drive them away. They will go to other place. And there is again a move. I heard this has been appreciated by UNESCO. I think this is going to be World Heritage Site. You see, one small tribe can make such impact world over. And it's a very small area. So the people who are educated, why can't they make change as far as the tackling the issue of global environment is concerned? This is another slide. Traditionally, we are the water conservation community. Everywhere in the village, when in fact I was a child, in the surrounding our village there would have been, I think, dozen of ponds. And the rainy season was a season, the Western people, if they get that type of, again the system, they will be crazy of coming and looking at those. The Rana tigrina, you know, that the frog, the big frog, Rana tigrina used to be there all around on the bank of that pond, and they will start giving the sound, and this will come out blue. Geology people may be knowing what is that. Vocal. The blue balloon will come out when they. It is so good a scene. Now Rana tigrina is no more there. It is endangered species. It is in Schedule 1. We now want to again do some research to create that. And the problem was that unfortunately, poor fellow's thigh is of some value of aphrodisiac character and illegally imported to the countries, neighboring countries there. Think of this. People don't appreciate what was the impact, ecological impact being created by that Rana tigrina. If you visualize, what was the impact? All the mosquitoes were eaten by those frogs, and there was no such type of the malaria problem during that time, because the rainy season is breeding season of mosquitoes also, and these frogs are there all around. That is their food. Now we take that fish. We introduce the fish for eating the larvae of mosquito. Nature had given that time, and they were doing the natural cleansing of those systems. We don't visualize the importance, ecological importance of those species. Naturally we were getting it, and insects were getting wiped out. Birds, they were the natural eater of the agriculture pests. Birds were taking away the pests from the agriculture. So that's why I say the ecosystem, as this is Tripura, where the king also used to go by boat to his palace, West Tripura it is. There are many problems where we have the law. Like point source problems, we have the law, Environment Protection Act, he has shown so many, Forest Conservation, Air Pollution Act, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. Some law is there where we are tackling that issue through regulation. But there are many pollution areas which are non-point sources, like houses, agriculture. They are equally important. Where the legislation, unfortunately, not much legislation and governance is there. So there our voluntary, involuntary effort is needed in our house. How we are tackling the waste, how we are consuming the raw materials. Those non-point sources are not there in the regulation as far as the Environment Protection Act is concerned. We are tackling only the point sources like industries, mining, this, that, urban centers, but not non-point sources which we are throwing. That cannot be done. For that, what country has given a national environment policy where we have integrated the environmental abuse which is going to be generated from different sectors like Ministry of Health, Ministry of Urban Development, this, that, agriculture. Now, National Environment Policy has given the mandate of tackling the environmental issues in those ministries by making a planning. In the planning stage itself, which in other countries it is called as strategic environmental assessment. Like we, in the project level, we say environmental impact assessment, which is generally an individual exercise for a particular specific project. But there are laws in some countries where strategic environmental assessment is done. Methodology is same as EIA, but that is done on the policy and planning level. Like 5-year plan is made. In that 5-year plan itself, we make a environmental impact assessment and define the environmental impacts, how to be addressed by different ministries, different departments. So it means that plan, when it becomes a program and it translates into the field, it is environmental discipline is already there, which otherwise will not be there, because Ministry of Surface Transport, why should they put the environment factor in that? So this in India, we have a very beautiful document. I will request you to kindly, this is available on the website also, National Environment Policy. It's just 50-60 page document. Kindly just download it and see it, how other ministries, other development programs are now amalgamated into the environment policy for addressing the environmental impacts. And this is one issue that Amity University also can, they must be having some involvement, but they can still try to make a perfection and excellence in EIA studies. What we are finding in EIA studies, biodiversity assessment is very weak. Because normally what happens, the organization or consultants, they go to different departments, Forest Survey of India, Forest Department, Wildlife Department, Botanical Survey of India. They collect the information regarding biodiversity of that particular area and put it in the EIA report. That becomes an issue when the data is very old. You know, I am from the forest ecology side, I know what monograph or the books have been published by the foreigners, R.S. Troop, Champion and Seth. No Indian scientist has ever thought of revising that. In 1957, what was the species composition in Himalaya, which Champion and Seth has done it? What is today? Nobody does it. Those people went with half pant and every, you know, they were there in those jungles years together. They documented that. Now, still we are following those things of 1927, 1957, because there's no effort to make a field visit and document what is the change in species character. Unfortunately, those type of data is coming into the EIA report. What is the impact assessment then? That is where this type of institutions like ecology related, I think you have got 4 or 5 institutions, schools, brilliant. But we want this type of services to get into focus into your institute also. And anybody do EIA, let anybody from Kashmir or Kanyakumari does the EIA, but he should have a knowledge that this is an institute where our expertise is available. Ecological data can be collected by involving this institute, so that a perfect EIA report, not near perfect EIA report is made, and we make an impact assessment, mitigation measure is perfect. That is where I think the academic institutions have got importance. That's why I wrote these 5-6 points. Species status, we may not be knowing because it's secondary data. Conservation strategies you define on the basis of data collected in 1958, what will happen? Nothing. So this and public-private linkage is a must. Even in the industries, unfortunately, there may be good institutions. For ecology, I can tell you, the India has got a better placed ecology pool in the country. So on this particular biodiversity issue, we have a pool available already. But only thing what is needed is the industry people should go to them. These academicians or researchers, they are very shy. They sit in their lab, publish the results. They're shy of going to industry and telling that we have done it. They are very happy in getting it published and getting the citation index. So both way is necessary. You should also go out, but more so the industry should come. Once the industry comes, I know from my examples, researchers will go to the extent that perfect study they will do it. Only they need that people should come and tell. Yeah. So what I need to tell you that for biodiversity assessment, if the industry can be informed that you have got the expertise, let them come forward and you start a public-private linkage. Then whether it is EIA or biodiversity assessment, they'll take your exercise. And that is the poor quality, reflects the poor quality EIA report, and mitigation measures are poorly reflected.
So, like we have done field studies. I said the drain impact and all. So that also come under EIA.
Why not? But
Impacts of
in
drain.
but in India, actually this type of, there are only some category of industries which are identified for EIA. Like major plantation, major urban planning, it is not under EIA. Maybe after some time it can come. There are countries they have got. EIA regulation is necessary in some countries even for making urban planning. But we don't have. We have only concentrated to this time only industry, mining, mineral, service sector. Maybe today or tomorrow it may come.
Yes, because in urban area where we are generating lot of waste, and these studies are very difficult. I had a hard time doing this.
I agree. So even in biodiversity assessment also, mostly what people do, the tree cover is only, for them it is only the biodiversity. They don't find the lower forms of components of scrub and herbs, even microbes, microfauna. They are equally important. As I told you, they are part of food chain. So all data should be collected. Now mostly the EIA report concentrates on getting the data from BSI and wildlife and the forest survey on the only tree species. So we don't give the full picture of the biodiversity assessment. And this is where I wanted to flag it. If you miss a species in your EIA and that is endangered or very schedule 1, once it is lost, no man-made capital will be able to create it. Maybe my grandfather might have seen the cheetah, Indian cheetah. I'm not able to see because Indian cheetah is now extinct. Similarly, my children, my grandchildren may not be able to see even tiger. So means the species which is lost, any amount of dollar and rupee will not be able to create it. So we have to be very honest in carrying out this study so that at least the species which are at the risk, we start doing the biotechnological intervention and create them and multiply them so that at least that species is surviving in the atmosphere. Fortunately, the way UNEP, the world, people are becoming educated and they are raising the voices. You see the dark color is those areas where people have got say in environmental planning and regulation. But we are, since you can see that these are the developed world. They have got all the abuse of environment, so they have become educated. You see North America, Europe, Australia, they are the developed world. So now their people are so awakened that they want to have say in the environment and the development. But in other areas, you see, ours is a little light because we are aware, but not that much. But other areas where still poverty is there, in African countries here, still there is no say. And this is a high biodiversity area, Kalahari Desert and all. So we need public opinion also. Public should get educated. And this is one of the way that we can educate ourselves. Create natural stock, sustainable livelihood will be ensured. If it goes on declining, developing world will be affected most because we are still dependent on the natural resources more. We are still dependent on the natural systems. India has got the provisions now. Fortunately, we are having inbuilt mechanism for legal provisions. Protected areas, you know that 4.5 or 4.6% of the total area is under protected area now, like national park, sanctuary, biosphere reserve, where representative species we are protecting them. so that they are not lost. Restoration strategies are found out that not of the bioremediation experiments. He told that we are taking help of now the institution for bioremediation. Public participation is getting encouraged. In even EIA report, now the industry has to carry out a public hearing, get the public opinion. So that way India has also gone ahead, getting the public opinion. So lastly, I am reiterating again with the last slide what UNF has said, raise your voice, not the sea level. Planet Earth is our shared island. Let us join forces to protect it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an interesting talk, for giving us an insight about the tools for biodiversity assessment. Now I invite Professor Saran and all the dignitaries on the dais to release and read the Amity Declaration for Environment Conservation.
Now, on this World Environmental Day, Amity is making a declaration. Now it reads, "It is hereby declared that the Amity University takes pledge to contribute toward sustainable development, taking lead in environmental education. Our mission is generating human resource through basic and specialized courses and spreading awareness by conferences, seminars, workshops, trainings, social activities, research and development, patents in green technology with GLP studies by faculty and students, participation, adopting green practices at Amity campuses as conservation of environment is essential to the well-being of humanity." Signed, Professor Dr. Balwinder Shukla, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, sir. Now we proceed towards the felicitation ceremony. I now request Professor Tanu Jindal, Director AIETSM, to felicitate our dignitary Professor A. Arunachalam with a shawl and memento. I would now request Professor Saran to please felicitate our eminent guest, Dr. V.P. Upadhyay, with a shawl and memento. I would now request Professor Arunachalam to felicitate Professor Tanu Jindal and Dr. V.P. Upadhyay with the NISA memento.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, it's a beautiful memento.
This is for you, sir. A small thing to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Arunachalam to deliver the vote of thanks.
We would also like to give from our founder president some gifts for our dignitaries who have taken out their valuable time to come to Amity. I would like to invite Dr. Mona Lisa Sen, Mrs. Meena, who has who has made all the efforts to organize this function, and yesterday also for the foundation day. Please, sir, कुछ gifts भी देना बैग्स वगैरह मैम बैग्स लेके चलने हेल्प करो बैग वगैरह लेके आओ Founder President has specially sent these gifts for our invitees. This has Amity brochure and also a clock, Amity clock. Now I invite Dr. Gyan Kashyap from NISA. He's been a supporting hand to Dr. Arunachalam for everything, and he's been associated with NISA for the past how many years?
From 15, 16 years.
15, 16 years. So he has contributed a lot to NISA. Dr. Shripat Jain, he is a geologist and he is in Kabi. Dr. Trilochan Singh, he is also a geologist and he has done a lot of work in Arunachal Pradesh. And I would like to inform you that he has traveled to South Africa by road in 88 days? 98 days. So he has done a remarkable mission, and he has represented our country and met eminent people of different countries.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then I would like to invite Dr. Jiten Bihari. Is he there? I think he is left just now. He is joining us in the user scheme. And thank you very much. Now I invite Dr. Arunachalam to deliver the vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Well, we are in the final stage. It's a very tough task to propose vote of thanks because I should not miss out people. That's what people normally figure out. To begin with, the NASA, National Environmental Science Academy, join hands with Amity University to thank Shri Ashok Chauhan, founder, president of Amity, for facilitating, guiding and supporting this program. I also thank Dr. W. Selvamurthy and his vibrant team for having supported this program. Thanks also to the Indian Council of Agriculture Research from top to bottom for supporting this program. Dr. S.Z. Kazim, President NESA, he could not participate in this program due to his ill health, but he has already given his best wishes. We thank him. Thanks are also to a series of people, Dr. S. Bandapatiay, he was with us, Dr. D.S. Rathore, Dr. Manoj, Dr. R.L. Agarwal, Dr. Guldeep Singh, Dr. Sumila Ratan, and Jitendra Bihari, Suipat Jain. These are some of the names which I could figure it out, but I have to thank my professor A.L. Verma, special thanks to him, because he has been my mentor also. He gave me a tough task to start with to develop my managerial skills. He made me in charge of telecommunications in my institute. I was a forestry fellow, but I was to look after all the telecommunication lines. So that was the beginning of my task-making effort, which I could reap the harvest now. So thanks to him. And I have to thank Dr. Saran for guiding through the process in the dais. And of course, Professor Tanu has done a wonderful job in organizing this thing in a short while, and with awesome people here. The hall is full, I believe, since the beginning I could watch. And it has been a great celebration. It's very rare to get people to listen what they don't want to. So it is very difficult task which she could make it possible with the support of the entire Amity fraternity. And special thanks to Dr. V.P. Upadhyay. I'm also a forest ecologist, so I appreciate his generosity in approaching the ecosystem services and the environmental issues. It was very interesting to have listened to your talk, sir. So thank you so much for this wonderful speech. Yeah, to conclude, I have to also thank some of the people who were instrumental in bringing me to this platform. Dr. Niloy Khare from Ministry of Earth Sciences. He has been instrumental in supporting our programs. Professor Dinabandhu Sahu is from Delhi University, and Dr. KG Saxena from Jawaharlal Nehru University. These are all people who support, who advocate environment and environmental issues. So thanks to all of them. Dr. Upadhyay made a very correct or straightforward point to hit. That was, he was emphasizing that we could not create another taxonomical criteria rather than Bentham and Hooker. Similarly, even today, whenever we want to identify a plant species, we go and look into the Flora of British India, 1872 publication, and we sit with that even today. And then we are looking forward for new species and conservation and so on and so forth. Means there is a mental block with us. He also pointed out in his own presentation that in Odisha cyclone issue, IUCN came out with that report that he emphasized this twice. If our own people would have come out with that, then we will not agree. This is the straightforward answer to that. So we have the mental block, we should come out of that. And the science industry interface, as we always talk about, and taking the knowledge back to the people, that's what Dr. Upadhyay was also hinting upon. हम लोग शाई नहीं होते हैं सर, हम लोग असल में हो जाते हैं क्या है, वी बिकम बिग वंस वी नो समथिंग, सो वी डोंट गो बैक टू द पीपल. हम लोग साइंटिस्ट हैं, हम लोग गांव में जाके ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज डॉक्यूमेंट करते हैं, उसके बाद उनके पास उनका सामना करने की हिम्मत नहीं करते हैं क्योंकि तुम्हारा ही नॉलेज से मैंने साइंटिस्ट बन गया, ये कहने के लिए हमारा पास हिम्मत नहीं है. सो वी डोंट गो फॉरवर्ड, सो वी शाई अवे फ्रॉम दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट. I fully appreciate that concern. And दुनिया में कैलकुलेटर आए तो हमने मैथमेटिक्स भूल गए, कंप्यूटर आए तो टाइपिंग भूल गए, टीवी आए तो आंखें खराब हो गई, वी जस्ट डोंट फोरसी थिंग्स. मोबाइल आएगी तो हमारा वोकैबुलरी भी ख़त्म हो गया, एसएमएस में ही चल रहा है सारे चीज़. सो वी आर कंप्लीटली eroding our trends in knowledge because of the so-called development at the cost of environmental degradation. So it's a wonderful day to become aware, conscious, and we want to foresee a green environment with green development for this country, for which all of us in one form or the other have to work sincerely by thanking our ancestors. Because of our ancestors, this world is with us. So the elders have to be thanked. We also want to thank all those biological diversity around us who have made life of human beings so easy and possible. And last, we want to thank those farmers who are doing the production for us so that we sit here and discuss about other things apart from farming. Thank you so much. Thanks one and all.
Thank you so much, sir. The dignitaries are now invited for a cup of tea at the F2 lounge. Thank you all for a wonderful evening.